Welcome to Introduction to Game Development. This is Computer Science 303 at Missouri State University. My name is Matthew, and I will be showing you how to use some of the tools we'll be using this semester. In particular, we'll be using the UDK. This is the Unreal Development Kit. This is the free version of Epic's Unreal Engine. And I will preface any tutorial I might give with this disclaimer that I am not an expert. I have had one course in using the UDK, similar to the course that you're in now. And so to begin with, let's go ahead and go to UDK's website. If you just go to udk.com, it'll bring you directly to their unrealengine.com/UDK website. And for any questions that I'm not able to answer, you can always go to the community forums here for Epic's forums, and you can ask any question you have there, and there are many experts who will be able to help you. And as well, you'll see a link here for downloads. If you click on that, you'll see here the download the latest release is the February 2013 UDK beta. And this is the version that we'll be using for this course. If you're familiar with previous versions, you should not see a whole lot of differences. I think the primary differences in this latest release are the release of a new substance feature and some improved rendering for mobile platforms. So if you have any experience with earlier versions of UDK, then it should not be too far of a step for you to begin using this one. In general, it would be recommended that if you're going to work on a game project, that you just choose a version at the very beginning and not worry about updating to new releases of the engine while you're in development for that game. And so once you've downloaded it, you shouldn't have any trouble installing, and I've cheated a little bit because I have downloaded already, and I've put a few shortcuts on my desktop here. This first one is the UDK editor, which is where we will be mostly working, and then UDK game, which will actually load up our levels as if it were a regular game that we had published. This is actually technically just a small broken down version of Unreal Tournament 3. Though I don't know that it has all of the levels, we will be able to see some of them, and you can kind of reverse engineer the levels as Epic has built them to give you an idea for how you can further develop your own. But you'll notice here also that I have a directory shortcut to the maps folder in our UDK install. To show you where this is, just go to wherever you've installed UDK, and go to the February 2013 release, go to UDK game, go to content, and then in maps right here. And the reason why I've shortcutted this to the desktop is because we will only ever want to open our maps from this location. While it's still possible to open maps in UDK from other locations, I would not recommend it because any changes that you make may corrupt the map so that you're not able to publish a final game using that level in the end. And so we won't have to worry about it today because we won't be actually creating any content that we'll be reusing in the future. But for future reference, you will always want to save and load your map files from anywhere inside this directory. And you can create subdirectories of your own as well. But just make sure you never open it from anywhere else, unless you plan to lose your work that you do. So let's go ahead and close that for now. And so UDK is a powerful real-time rendering engine for game development using Epic's Unreal technology. You can make games for iPad, iPhone, PC, Mac. We can access a playable version of our game from within the editor, but we also have this option of using UDK game. And you'll be wanting to use this often if you're developing a game for the iPad or iPhone, because it'll give you a better idea of how it will perform on that platform. And so, in case you're not familiar with Unreal Tournament 3, let's go ahead and click on UDK Games so you can get an idea of what our presentation of our levels is going to look like. There's some scary, ominous music. And so here we are. We can go ahead and hit instant action and just start the game. And you will see here we have a 3D environment with pipes and lighting, and there's, as you can see over the edge there, you can see some different kinds of guns. And I'll go ahead and click the left mouse button to fire and begin. Now you'll also see that we have some artificially intelligent enemies around here who we might see any moment. And you can jump. There's different kinds of liquid volumes. So you can see here I'm in the slime there. And yeah, it appears it killed me. But here in a moment I will respawn. So there's a bad guy. Oh, and here he is. Where'd he go? Ah. And so these are just non-player characters that are guided by directives that are given to them through a form of scripting in UDK called Kismet. Now, there's also a written language similar to Java or C++ called Unreal Script, but we will not be actually using Unreal Script in this course, and so any kind of behaviors that we want to give to our gameplay at all will have to be done through Kismet, which is a visual programming interface, which may be new to a lot of you, and maybe a bit of a stretch, but some of you might find it a little bit easier to use than other things, than written code at least. It depends on really where your strengths are. And so we'll be spending most of our time in the UDK editor. And with the UDK editor we'll be able to build levels, develop gameplay features, and we won't ever actually have to write a single line of code though, because we'll be using instead the Kismet visual programming interface. And that won't be for a little while yet, since we still need to show you how to actually build the level itself. Now, you saw for a moment there we had a welcome screen. If you didn't have one on your screen, you can go to the help menu, and it's the first one there. And as well, you'll see a content browser. We'll be using this quite a bit, but for today, let's go ahead and just close this and not worry about anything in here. And so getting started will take you to documentation for tutorials, accessing video tutorials here. We'll give you other videos that are similar to this one, though they'll certainly cover a lot more topics than we will. And this will take you to, directly to the Epic forums, which I pointed you to directly at the beginning of the video on the Unreal Engine's website. Here's the latest changes for the February release, their Facebook page, and we don't need to worry about any of this stuff. We'll never use it. But down here below you'll see Start Editing. And we haven't actually created any maps yet, so let's go ahead and begin with a new map. And most often we'll be using a blank map to begin with, or using levels that we've built in the past. But in this case, just to give you an idea of some of the objects you might see in a basic level, let's go ahead and load up this morning lighting template. Now, while we're in here, this is probably the view that you have the first time you've opened it. And you can look around here. It's a fully lit 3D environment. There's a few different kinds of objects here. We have a skybox with an animated texture. We have the sun itself, which is a dominant directional light. We have a cube and a platform. We're not actually bound by any physics here, so we don't actually have to stand on the platform. But we also have a set of icons here. You'll notice right here, this is a player start. Now, as the player start position, that will be where we begin a level, but as well, that kind of icon indicates where we can spawn enemies. This is another icon here for dominant directional light, and that's just an indication that we do have a dominant directional light source. And then up above here, this last icon, and this is the exponential height fog. And so this essentially changes the way lighting appears depending upon your relative elevation to the objects that you're seeing. And one thing as well, to be able to identify these objects as we're looking around, anything that you select by left-clicking, you can look down at the bottom of your screen now, and here it says persistent level dot exponential height fog. So that's where you can find a label for every object that you've selected. So here's the exponential height fog. We can read that at the bottom. Here's that dominant directional light. You can see where it says dominant directional light here. And then as well, we have the player start. And this one is actually numbered, so player start 1. And then as well, we have this large green volume. It's a kind of a rectangular box here that goes over our platform area. And all this really tells the engine is where does it need to focus on when it's building light. You don't necessarily have to have one of these in the level, but so long as it's in the level, we can bake the lighting whenever we're building the level much more quickly. Now, down here below, the platform is what we call a static mesh, and this cube here is also a static mesh, but something you may not see here, and I'll go ahead and just click the edge here. If I move this up, there's actually another object directly on top of that cube, and this is what we call the geometry brush. It's a BSP brush. Now, the static mesh itself is one kind of object, but the brush is something, it doesn't ever actually appear in the level. This is a tool that we use. This brush can take any kind of shape that we want it to. I know it doesn't look like a brush, it looks like a cube, right? But we can essentially assign all kinds of shapes to this brush and use it to add or subtract or create different kinds of geometry around the level by using that three-dimensional space defined by that brush. And as well, we'll see down here, this is another static mesh, and it's just sitting there, and this will actually appear in the level though. It has full collision and light bounces off of it. And so just to give you an idea of what we're looking at here, this is how we see it in the editor. Anytime we want to see how the level looks to the player when the game's actually going to be played, we can see right here there's a large green arrow. This is the play level in editor window button. If we go ahead and select that, will appear right where that player start position was. We can see the sun and the clouds are moving. We can walk around using the WASD keys, just like you would if you were playing a normal shooter. And it really creates some beautiful environments without really a whole lot going on, just because of the quality of the lighting, and there's not a whole lot of interaction though. So let's go ahead and start by putting in some basic features to the level to make it similar to an actual video game that we might produce. So to begin with, let's go to View, and then from View go to World Properties, and then go to Default Game Type, and then within Default Game Type, under Game Type, we can go to the let's see, where is it? UT Deathmatch. This is the one we are looking for. Select UT Deathmatch for your default game type within the game type section of your world properties. So here we are now. It has it set as UT Deathmatch, and if we go ahead and select go ahead and play again from the editor window, here we are again. Now we have a gun. If we left click, we can fire our blaster, and I get a little bit of issues here with performance as I'm recording the video. If we do a right click, we have another kind of weapon, a streaming weapon, and it leaves an impression on the static meshes that it shoots. Now let's also introduce you to the console commands. So just as a first one that we might go ahead and consider, press the tilde key. That's up on the top left corner next to your 1 key, just below your escape key. And from here, type add bots 1. And what it's going to do is it's going to look for a player start position, and it's going to add a deathmatch bot one at a time loaded from that position. So I'll go ahead and hit enter and tilde again to close it. And oh, hey, looks like he came in right behind me. Where is he? Oh, there he is. Okay. Be careful. You know, he's going to chase us down. And he is no match for my kung fu. But now you see just how quick and easy it is to get an enemy in there to kill you. So, okay, I'll go ahead and hit escape to close this. And so now we've seen just a few of the things you can do in there. For other kinds of console commands, you can go to this website here. This is udn.epicgames.com/3, that's the number 3 spelled out, /developmentkitcontentcreation.html. Oh, and it looks actually, this is the wrong one. So this is actually, here we go, sorry. udn.epicgames.com/3/consolecommands.html. And on this page you'll find all the various console commands that you can use. Some of these only work within the actual game itself. Others will work in both the game itself and in the game as played through the editor window like we just did. We won't be using console commands a whole lot, but in the future we may use some in our Kismet operations, because we can actually create Kismet scripts that will trigger console commands as we please. And so now, let's go ahead and talk about how we might navigate in our environment here within the editor window. To begin with, you have your normal WASD keys that you would use to navigate in a shooter game. At any point you can stop and hold down the right click, and then any mouse motion you do will do a change in orientation for your perspective. If you do a left click, it'll do what they call an orbit motion whenever you move the mouse. And holding down left click, if you just move up and down, that's essentially a dolly motion for your camera. If you hold both the left and right mouse buttons down simultaneously and then move up and down with your mouse, that will take you in a crane motion moving up and down. And then as well, you can change the speed at which you move. So if you see right here, this is the camera movement speed. You can left click to cycle it, right click for a menu. Every time we left click on it though, you'll see that this blue bar moves higher and higher up, so it's basically filling up a little fraction of that box. The lower that bar is, the slower you move. The faster that bar is, or the higher that bar is, the faster you move. Until eventually it becomes too fast, actually. And so another way you can navigate really quickly is you can, with your mouse, just point wherever you'd like to go, hold Control T, and then left click, and that's essentially a teleport. So Control T click is teleport, and that teleports you directly to the spot that you were looking at, the first collidable object that your mouse would encounter wherever it's pointed. Now as well, we have, say for instance you have some object selected. In this case, let's say we're looking at this cube right here, and we know we have it selected as a static mesh actor. Now if we hold L, this will lock our pivot point onto that object, so any kind of motion that we do to move around will be able to pivot around that point there. It doesn't seem to be wanting to work for me, perhaps because I am recording the video right now. That would appear to be the case, so I'm going to go ahead and stop doing that. I can probably demonstrate for you in class though when I'm not recording a video, so I'll go ahead and stop that for now. Now, there's also this go-to actor and go-to brush. So I mentioned this was the brush earlier, right? We can move that wherever we like. We can set it over to the side. But at any point, if we go ahead and say go-to actor, it went to the brush since we had the brush selected as our actor. Say for instance we have this cube over here, this static mesh selected as our actor, then no matter where we go, we can move the our position way out from the level. If we just say go to actor, boom, right there back to the cube again. And then if we ever want to know where our brush is, we can say go to builder brush, and there we are again. And so that's a few things we can do just to navigate around. You'll notice earlier I had 4 different small screens up there, and real quickly I brought it up to this view, which is probably your default view. But in the top right hand corner you'll see here it says this will unmaximize our editor window here. So if we go ahead and click that, now we have 4 separate different windows here. This one in the bottom left corner is really similar to what we had in full screen just a moment ago. And we also have 3 others with this gray background and this grid mark, or this the grid line pattern behind it. You'll notice there's an array of buttons here that are quite similar for each of these different editor windows. But this first one here, you'll see it says viewport type. This P stands for perspective, which is to say that it's our standing perspective as if we were a character within this world. Up here we have S, which is the side view, and we can scroll in and out and navigate on this viewport however we like. But you'll notice as well, it also realigns these other side views, or these other viewports. Where this is a side view here, the top left, we have a front view on this top right, and we have a top view on this bottom right hand corner. And so we can look at that cube from above. If we scroll out a little bit, there's the whole platform. This is the brush we have selected here. And here's that cube where it stands there in the center. So this is looking at it from the top view. You can see it from the side here. We can see the green outline here for our lighting volume. And we can get a good view on just about everything here, and it really helped us to line up our objects as we're adding them into the world. Now, some other things that you might want to consider here is even though you're able to move with the WASD keys, we could potentially mess ourselves up if we accidentally hit Alt-W. So if I'll go ahead and bring my view down here. So here I am in this bottom left hand corner. I use WASD keys to move. If I accidentally hit Alt-W, then all of a sudden all of my static meshes disappear. So be careful if you're moving around using the WASD keys. because if you accidentally hit Alt-W, then all of your static meshes will disappear and you'll be unable to work unless you've realized what you've done. So that's one thing to consider as well. Now, there are different views available for each of these ports, and just like you only see this wireframe appearance in this side, front, and top view, we are able to see a fully lit world in our bottom left view. Now, you might be having some trouble rendering that. It might be performing pretty slowly on your computer there in the lab. And so if you're ever struggling for performance, you can try some of these other views here. This one right here is with real-time selected, so it has all the animations occurring. This is probably the most performance heavy, or the most difficult for your computer to run. But as well, we also can turn off that real-time, and we can turn on, say, brush wireframe mode, so we only see the objects where they should be and not necessarily what textures they have. We have the wireframe mode as well, and with wireframe mode, you'll be able to see different objects depending on what we have out. We haven't actually put any brushes in the zone yet, so you're not going to see any difference yet. Then we have this unlit mode, and it's not very illustrative here since everything has a white texture, but you can usually work pretty well in the unlit mode. And then lit mode is how I prefer to work, but you always have the option of working in one of these other modes if your computer is struggling to handle it. And so we don't necessarily have to worry about all of these other buttons. You can see though that you're able to set independent camera move speeds for each of these different windows, and we could even change these views to where, say for instance, you wanted two separate perspective views. And so here's another perspective view in wireframe, and we can get another look from another thing, of objects from another angle, rather. And so we can also adjust these views with a hotkey, where if you hold down Alt, if you say Alt 4, that will take you to the lit view. Alt 3 takes you to the unlit view. Alt 2 will take you to the wireframe, and then brush wireframe is Alt 1. And again, we can't see the difference there. And I'm going to go ahead and switch this back to a side view. And now let's go ahead and take a look at a few of these features that we're able to access for the objects that we're looking at here on the screen now. You'll notice whenever we select an object, it has this set of 3 arrows here, red, green, and blue. And whenever you see these 3 arrows as you have an object selected, we call that being in translation mode, because any motion that we make with it, we're able to move it around as we please. See, I have the bottom static mesh selected now. Let me go ahead and get this cube here. There we go. So now I can move the static mesh around wherever I like using this translation mode arrow set. And now as well, if you press spacebar, that's going to give you rotations. And so you can rotate this object however you like. We have multiple axes. And then if you hit spacebar again, now those 3 arrows that we had earlier, we still have them pointing out in the different directions, but they're no longer arrows. They have these red blocks on the ends of each of these extremities. And this is to tell us that we are in scaling mode. And so we can grab one of these and pull it out, and it will resize that static mesh however we like. Now, I accessed each of these modes simply by pressing spacebar while I had them selected. But as well, if you look on the top here, every time I hit space, it's highlighting a different one of these. So we have translation mode, we have rotation mode, and we have scaling mode for these icons above. And even though as I press space it only cycles through these 3 different modes, you can see to the right of that there's another one That's called the non-uniform scaling mode. And this is actually a very nice feature, and that not all programs are able to handle very well, but it's able to scale our static meshes in different directions as we choose. So like say for instance we have this blue end indicates this top left surface coming out of this cube. We can extend just in that dimension using the non-uniform scaling. And this is something that we will use a lot in the future, but the reason I show it now is because you're able to use it on so many different things. We'll be using it on static meshes on the tutorial that we have for that section on static meshes alone. We'll be using it on brushes in our next lab coming up soon. We'll be able to use it on terrain features and just about anything that we actually put into the game. We can use these different editing modes to adjust some of their characteristics. And so we've covered quite a bit. We went over how to use UDK game to play our levels. We opened up our editor. We learned how to navigate through the levels. We learned how to set our game type for our world properties. We discussed some of the objects that you might see in a normal level. We discussed some of the hotkeys for the viewports and some of the different modes for views, those being brush wireframe, unlit, and lit. We talked about having real-time and how that can affect our performance, so we can always turn that off. And just as one last thing that we might cover here is just to show you some of the content they actually have available for us to use given with UDK. And so I'm going to go ahead and open a level. And so if I went to Content, Maps, this is where all of them have to be saved. Then we go to UT3, and here we'll see DM Deck. That's the deathmatch. And we'll go ahead and not save anything that we've done so far here. And so now, if you remember, we opened up UDK game at the very beginning of this, and we played around for just a moment in a team deathmatch situation with artificially intelligent bots running around and shooting us and making us drown in pools of acid and whatnot. But here is the level itself, and we can actually look at it within the editor. And there's a lot more different kinds of icons you'll see here, like these apples here are for pathing nodes and to make our enemies more self-sufficient and being able to actually track us down. There's some cameras here. There's which is a feature we're going to see in the future, but whenever we start creating cinematics and other kinds of features using Matinee. But let's go ahead and play this level in an editor window. And so this is the same level again, right back where we were. This time it doesn't have all the same features for the deathmatch, since we're not opening it as a regular game, but we can actually navigate the level just as if we were playing it normally. And this is a great way to be able to test our levels. There's really no difference between how I'm walking through this level now and how you might walk through your own levels, and there's no reason why you wouldn't be able to produce a similarly professional game using UDK. So that about covers everything that we're going to cover for this video. Next time we'll be covering how to create brush geometry. And thank you. Have a good day.